Just recording it so we can put this on the platform afterwards. So we'll have an overview of the IELTS writing paper, and we'll look at some types of writing tasks, both from general training and academic. There'll be some tips for teaching writing skills. And we'll have a Kahoot quiz about the writing paper. Now, just while we wait for other people to arrive, and let me just share with you a document that's going to be important for all of this. And it's the masterclass handout. We've seen it before, but we're particularly going to need it today. Welcome, Arnold, and welcome, Jose. So please open the masterclass handout and turn to the pages. Yes, pages 25 and 26 we're particularly going to need. So have a look at page 25, 26. But we're going to need various parts of this masterclass handout today. Welcome. So, can you just confirm that you found the descriptors? Right? Because we're going to need these tables, because we're going to learn a little bit about how the writing exam is assessed. It's gonna pretty important. And there are some other useful parts of this related to writing as well. And that's if you have a look at there's some sample responses that are going to be handy.
Good
We've got
afternoon
yeah.
to everyone. Good
Hi,
afternoon, Mr.
Rosa.
Watson.
Hi.
What page did you say?
Particularly 25 and 26 we're going to be looking at today. But there's other material on here that's useful as well. Like
Thank you.
we've got some samples here. Like from page 10 we'll be looking at as well. And oh yes. So look at page 4 as well. That's going to be we're going to be looking at page 4 through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, so 5 to page 21. I might just refer you to the relevant page and you can read it in your own time, possibly after the session today. But those are all relevant pages. Earlier in the session, we'll be looking at 25 and 26 to familiarize ourselves with the descriptors. All right, so let's get started, shall we? It's kind of detailed. It's So we're going to dive straight into the IELTS masterclass. Overview. So for both formats, there are two tasks for the writing. Task 1 and 2 academic consists of summarizing information presented in a visual format. Task 2 is an essay. Hmm. General training. General training, task 1, general training, is a letter. And task 2 is an essay, for which a more personal approach than the academic writing version is acceptable. So it's kind of a bit more opinionated. Hmm. How students will be scored. Now, if you look at your band descriptors on those pages 25 and 26, you'll notice that there are uh, there are four band descriptors. First one is task achievement or task response. Now, task achievement is for the first task, task response is for the second. Coherence and cohesion. Coherence is like all about, well, our ideas organized logically. And cohesion is all about whether we can use certain words or expressions to create a sense of uh, the text being joined together or connected. Mm? So we're thinking of like connectors, discourse markers, reference words, pronouns, and so on. Lexical resource, range of vocabulary, and grammatical range and accuracy. That also includes spelling, uh, capitalization, punctuation. Now, in this section, we're going to identify the writing skills you need to achieve band 7 or higher in the test. We're also going to highlight some of the common mistakes which could prevent your students from reaching the band score that they need. Let's move on. We're going to start with academic task 1. And the key questions are, what skills do our students have to demonstrate to get band 6 or above? And what are the common mistakes they can avoid? Now, Information may be presented in a number of different visual formats. The task is essentially an information transfer task. In other words, information which they are given in a visual form has to be converted into text. Imagine students have to report on what they can see to someone they are talking to on a phone who can't see the visual. They have to identify the key information, the key features, and give a summary to that person. They should only spend 20 minutes on this task, as it only counts for 1/3 of the total marks. They'll lose marks if they write less than 150 words. Now, if they're doing the computer-delivered writing test, a word counter will show the word count for each task. So what sort of diagrams or graphs could they get? Can you, if you have an idea, could you write some ideas into the chat for us? So the question is, what sort of graphs or diagrams could the students get? Hi, Jose, welcome. Okay, yeah, I guess a Venn diagram could be possible. Bar charts, yes. Line graphs. Yeah, all of those are likely. Pie charts, yeah. Yeah, it's also possible. Maps, yeah, great. So here's some possible ones. Yeah, pie chart was mentioned. Yeah, bar graph, line graph, even a table or a diagram. Of how something works, or even a process, right? Now, let's have a look at a bar graph and the task that goes with it. Now, this is found in your masterclass handout. Have a look. I think it's is it page 3 or page 4? No, page 4 of the masterclass handout. Yeah. Let me just send it into the chat again for those who've just arrived. Meanwhile, the rest of you can find it in your handout. Page 4. Right. So it shows the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1995 and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. They're asked to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So I'd like you to look at that task, the Japanese tourists task, right? Perhaps I could put this into the, I'll make a screenshot and share it with you because I'm going to need to turn the page here and you won't see this anymore on my screen. So There we go. So make sure you have this bar chart in front of you because we're going to ask some questions, all right? So look at the task and answer these questions. Um, First, what should they write? Any ideas? You can pipe up, you can take off your microphone and, well, raise your hand if you want to speak. But, let's try and answer these questions together as a group. Um,
Uh, I could help.
Go on.
Okay, first thing we need to identify is what kind of graph is it? In this case, it's a bar graph. So I would probably begin by mentioning the type of graph that I'm going to analyze. The following bar graph illustrates the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad. That would probably be my introductory sentence as to what the graph is about. Then I would begin with probably what is an overview. The overview here would be the number of millions. So it would be
Mm,
what we have on the left-hand side.
mm,
And the years, I would probably mention something that it's from 1985 to 1995 at every two-year interval. And I would say that it's measured versus the second, which is Australia's share of Japanese tourist market.
So they
And
should they make comparisons?
yeah, they need to
Yeah,
because
yeah,
there's two of them here. And
yeah.
so I would also illustrate compared with the number of shares related with the number of Japanese tourists,
Right,
Australian tourists in the Japanese market. And I would illustrate that the chart here is by percentages of number of Australian visitors, and it's
right,
also between 1985 and 1995. So these are the two
right.
things they have in common.
Great. Should they give their opinion?
No, there's no opinions. This is just
No,
we basically give what the data is showing.
that's
We
right.
don't speculate as to why the drop or the rise in each of. We just simply put what we see on the chart. There's no speculations. There's no emotions. There's just basic facts that go on here.
Great. Thank you very much, Jose. Let me nominate someone else. How about Isabel? What should I do first?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I totally agree with Jose. I consider that that's what we have to do. We have to look at every bullet and we have to try to analyze as much as we can.
Ah,
Yeah, but to be honest, I can't read the letters because they are kind of small.
all right. Well, why don't you download the masterclass handout and then you can have a look at page 4 because you can it's a PDF, so you can make it bigger.
For
So,
sure. Thank you.
how should I begin my answer? Paula, can you answer that one? I think kind of Jose kind of mentioned it in his answer, but any ideas? How should I begin my answer? Paula, can you answer that one?
Describing like the general map that I have there with the bars,
Uh,
like not taking into account what is or which one is the most big or the biggest bar or the smallest, by giving like a general point of view of what I see in the graphic.
right. So it's like an introduction of some sort.
Yes, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, good. Um, Patricia, can you tell us what are key features?
Okay, so let me check. We are analyzing here information about two countries, Japan and Australia, related to the people who are traveling abroad. And we have the number of people in millions and the
All
specific
right.
years in each one of the graphs.
All right. So yeah, key features are the most noticeable and significant facts contained in the graph. How how do I support the key features with data?
Maybe analyzing if they are increasing or decreasing and comparing the two graphs, the information in the two graphs
Hmm.
to compare.
Okay.
Also
Gas?
mentioning some years, right? I mean, like take some periods of time and try to describe how the information has changed through the years.
Hmm. Good. And what is an overview? Does anyone have an idea of what an overview is? And just welcoming Lena and Wendy, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So any idea what an overview could be?
Like a general summary of something?
Uh-huh. Yeah, let's have a check then. So here are recommendations. So you must summarize information in your own words, highlighting the key features and supporting these with figures or information. You should also make comparisons where appropriate. Provide an overview. Your answer should be in the correct format. That is a continuous piece of writing. You shouldn't explain or give an opinion on the information. So what should I do first? Analyze the task carefully before you begin to write. Read headings, note labels or words. For bar and line graphs, look at X and Y axes. Understand what they mean. For diagrams, note the process or sequence of events and any other information supplied. Try to form an overview in your mind of the information that's provided. How should you begin? Well, write an intro in your own words describing the info. You can use individual words from the question paper, but don't copy long phrases or whole sentences, as these will be deducted from the total word count of your answer. So key features, well, organization first. Summarize in your own words, highlight key features, support with figures or information. Make comparisons where appropriate, provide an overview. Okay. Sorry, it keeps slipping back. Organization must be in a clear, logical manner, using linking words and paragraphs. No rule about how many paragraphs there should be in task 1, but each para should introduce a main idea. For example, you could write an introductory paragraph and 2 or 3 others and conclude with an overview. So key features are the significant facts contained in the graph. Select at least 3, forming the basis of your answer. Don't try to mention everything. You can't include all the data, so select the most interesting related to the key features to illustrate your summary. It keeps slipping back, doesn't it? There we go. Overview. Usually 1 or 2 sentences summarizing the general trends or information given in the chart, graph, or diagram. It can come at the beginning, in the middle, or the end, and it forms a useful conclusion. So, rules of writing. Um, how do we approach the task? As with any task, we have to set the scene and provide a context. So what you have to do is write an introduction, including what, where, and when. Highlight key figures with features with figures, and then write an overview. That's the basic structure for academic task 1. Essentially, for this particular task, we should include 3 things. What, which is basically the number of Japanese. Where, Australia. And when, from 1985 to 1995. So the intro in the slide covers the what, where, and when, and skillfully includes the rubric, the instructions, while at the same time adapting the grammar to suit the new sentence structure. There is no need to explain what is in the X and the Y axes to the examiner. So, the first masterclass rule is to write an introduction. What do you think is the second going to be? Well, you think about that. Let me just send the masterclass handout to the people who've just arrived, like Wendy and Lena. Yeah, and the task we're looking at is the Japanese tourists visiting Australia. There it is. Just send it to you again through the chat. Okay, you can find this, I think it's on page 4 of the masterclass handout. So the second rule, any ideas? What should be the second rule? First is write an introduction. Second is highlight
Opportunities.
Yes, it's highlight with the key features with figures, as in this sample answer. Now, the data may be given in percentages or a range of units of measurement. It's important to present the data correctly, like millions, not thousands, etc. Yeah. So you notice here you've got percentages. You lose marks for inaccuracy, so make sure you write the figures and ranges correctly. This is a good sample answer to the task that I've shared with you in the chat. But what if our answer is not so good? Here's a question for you. What is the highest score for task achievement you can get if you don't include figures to highlight the key features? So I'd like you to have a look in your band descriptors, page 24, 25. All right. Now, IELTS considers that being able to use data to provide support for the key features is a key writing skill. Students need to show that they are able to back up their facts with evidence. And we know from the band descriptors that examiners assess their ability in writing to highlight key features with figures. Now, just how well they can do this is rated under the column that is called task achievement. So here's your first exercise in using the band descriptors for writing task 1. You'll find the answer in the first column. Task achievement. Look for the word data. Welcome, Grace, and welcome, Maria Antonia.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody.
So have a look at those band descriptors and tell me what's the highest band you can get if you don't include the key features. Write in the chat, yeah?
Kind of 5.
Let's see. You say 5, why?
I read there this may present a purpose for the letter that is unclear at times, that tone may variables and sometimes inappropriate. Presents but inadequate covers key features, bullet points that there may be a tendency to focus on details.
Okay, good. That's where it's found, yeah. So it's under task achievement, and in 5, you should be able to find it. Right, the key word is data. Look for the word data.
I understood key features.
Look, it says recounts detail mechanically with no clear overview. There may be no data to support the description. Yeah. So will you get a band 7 if you don't include data when you report the key features? The answer is no. Band 7 says clearly presents and highlights key features. Clearly presents and highlights key features. What about band 6? Well, no, because we can see that it says presents and highlights key features. Presents and adequately highlights key features or bullet points. So you have to go down to band 5, and it says maybe no data to support the description. Okay. So the answer, therefore, well done. You identified it. It was band 5. So to recap, rule 1 is start with an introduction. Rule 2 is highlight key features with data. And what's rule 3? Any ideas what rule 3 is? I think we mentioned it earlier. Begins with O.
Like, no opinions? I don't know.
No opinions. Huh. I think Jose mentioned it and Sola mentioned it. I think Camilo might have mentioned it.
Perhaps the overview.
Overview. Yes, that's the key word, isn't it? Overview. Yeah. Write an overview. So an overview, always write an overview for task 1, academic. Overview is a summary of the most important message, usually written in just one sentence. It may be in the introduction or in the conclusion, as in this example. It doesn't matter where in the essay it appears, but it must be there, right? So it's a bit like, writing a report for your busy boss. And when you usually have to write an executive summary. So here's an example of an overview on the page here. So the skill of writing an overview is also assessed in the task achievement scale. So let's do another practical exercise. What is the highest score for task achievement if you don't include an overview in your answer? Have a look in the Grace 6.
5, maybe?
5, is it?
Yeah, it
That
says
one
they're
was
like
what the previous
recount.
one. Sorry,
Yeah.
Cesar, go ahead.
Not like it says they're like recounts detail mechanically with no clear overview.
Okay. Yes, that's it. Yes. Recounts detail mechanically with no clear overview. So, will you get a band 7 if you don't include an overview in your answer? The answer is no. Because it says you've got to have a clear overview of the main trends. What about band 6? Well, no, it says there's an overview with information appropriately selected. So you have to go down to 5, and as you said, it's recounts detail mechanically with no clear overview. Yes, that's that one there. All right. We're doing well. Yes, there's also an overview in band 6, says Maria Antonia. Quite correct. So let's have a look at the checklist. Nice picture of Sydney there. So, examiner can see how many words you've written, so they should include at least 150. If there's less than that, they're probably missing something. Have they made effective comparisons? The task instruction says make comparisons where relevant. So this still applies to stages in a process. So even if they're writing a process like bricks, the brick making, look on our page on the masterclass handout. Even in something like a process, they may have to make comparisons. Let me just show you. There's some comparison language here, then at a higher temperature. These steps involve different processes. So comparisons is a relevant thing to include. They must use the right text type or format for their answer. So academic task 1 must be written as a factual report, not as a letter or a lecture. The answer must be written in connected text with linking words. They lose marks if they write in note form or if they use bullet points or dot points or numbered lists, right? So they shouldn't be using lists and so on. It needs to be continuous prose. Organized in paragraphs. Also, have they checked for mistakes in grammar and spelling? They need to be consistent in their use of verb tenses. And just a reminder, in computer-delivered IELTS, the word count appears at the bottom of the screen. The examiner can read how many words they have written. Yeah? Make sure it's 150. Now, common mistakes.
Yeah, I'm
Task-
sorry. I have a
Go ahead.
question
Yeah, sure.
regarding the 150 words you
Yeah.
mentioned. You said at least, so it means what if a person, let's say, write 140? So is that person penalized?
Well, why don't you check on the I think that comes into the assessment criteria in a task achievement, because it could be related to the content. So they will take it into account whether they've addressed it could come into the task achievement. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, but yes, it strongly encourage them to make sure they do 150 at least. So the task tells them to summarize the information by selecting, reporting the main features. The task is designed to be completed on 150 or so words. So if they write more than 200, they're probably not being selective enough and they've included too much detail. So they should aim to identify trends or patterns rather than describing every change that occurs. So actually the danger is probably that they would attempt to write too many words and not be selective, you know? Another problem, a common mistake, is trying to interpret the data. It's to report the main features, not interpret the information or speculate on why changes occurred. You're not asked to explain why. For example, that there was a small decline in the number of tourists and Australia's share of tourists in the early 90s. So just get them to report the information factually. Right, so I'm not describing every detail of information. Not using data to support the key figures and not writing an overview are both mistakes that will lose them marks. Now, if they have to describe a process, for example, how bees make honey, they'll have a series of pictures to describe. They should make sure they identify all the stages of the process and not miss any out. They need to include an overview stating how many stages are involved in the process. Examiners will also assess how well they use sequencing words to make clear the order of the stages in the process. Words like the first stage, the following stage, after that, next, in the final stage. Have a look at the writing to describe the brick making process. You'll notice that. Now, the ability to do that is rated under coherence and cohesion in the band descriptors. All right. On to general training. Oops. All right. So general training, task 1 consists of writing a letter. They have to write at least 150 words, but they don't need to write more than 200, as the task is designed to be completed in around 150 words. After all, they only have 20 minutes to write the letter, and it only counts for 1/3 of their score for writing, right? So they need to be focused on that, right? 20 minutes, 150 words. They are given a situation that they have to respond to. For example, by giving their opinion on something and suggesting a course of action. Or they may be dissatisfied with something and want to write a letter complaining about the situation. Right? Later, I'll show you a little lesson that you can do with this kind of complaint letter, formal complaint letter. Right? They may be asked to write a letter to a friend, inviting them to stay with them and suggesting when they should come. As you can see in this example, after the situation is outlined, they are given clear instructions in the form of 3 bullet points as to what they should say in the letter. So, analyze the task first. Make sure that they fully understand what they have to do to cover all parts of the task. Now, could someone read out the rubric for us, please? How about Grace? Could you read? You've got a good voice. Could you read this one out for us?
The rubric. I cannot see the rubric.
Yeah,
Sorry.
can you see the rubric? It says there have been some problems. You can't see it on the screen?
Okay, sorry, apologies. Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been some problems with public transport in your area recently. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. In your letter, describe the problems, explain how these problems are affecting the public, and suggest what changes could be made.
Now, as you can see in this example, after the situation is outlined, there are clear instructions in the form of 3 bullet points as to what they should say in their letter. So they should analyze the task first to make sure they fully understand what they have to do to cover all parts of the task. A common mistake is not to cover all 3 bullet points. They should try to give an equal amount of detail for each point. Make the purpose of the letter as clear as you can. Note, in this example, the test taker is asked to describe more than one problem. The question tells you how to start the letter, so make sure that they follow the task instructions. They may have to write a formal letter, a semi-formal letter, or a personal letter. So it's important to use the right style or tone when you write. You can see from the task achievement scale in the band descriptors that you will lose marks if the tone of your letter is not appropriate or consistent. Remember, on the computer writing test, a word counter will show the number of words for each task. 9. 3 rules of writing. As with any task, you need to set the scene, provide a context.
Mhm.
You have to make it clear what the purpose and context of your letter is. So my first masterclass rule is state your purpose and begin addressing the points in the task. And maintain an appropriate tone. Sometimes we call this appropriacy or register. So here's an example related to this task of the public transport in your area. So essentially for this task, they should include the purpose of their letter. First masterclass rule is state the purpose and begin addressing the points in the task. Notice that the writer has described 2 problems. Roadworks and bus timetable. Second one would be cover all the bullet points in the task as fully and clearly as possible in the time. So he mentions the roadworks and the bus timetable at the weekend. Cover all the bullet points as fully and as clearly as possible. Now, what happens if you don't? What's the highest score for task achievement if they don't cover all the bullet points? Have a look in task achievement and look for the words bullet points. Give you some time to read. And I'd like you to put your answers into the chat. Thank you, Arnold. on the wrong page. That's why. Arnold says 4. Why? Why did you say 4, Arnold? What's the reason for saying 4? Okay, and anyone else help us with that? Grace agrees, but why?
Yeah, the band descriptor says that in task achievement, not all bullet points are presented in
Right.
general training.
Yes, that's right. Attempts to address the task, but does not cover all the bullet points. Yeah, I may confuse.
Well, you look at 5, it says presents, but inadequately covers. The wording
yeah.
there, but inadequately covers could be that he doesn't cover all of them.
Right. Or yeah, I mean, maybe just mentions the bullet point in passing, yeah, without like elaborating on it. So
Yeah, because
that's
I'm reading here in inadequately, it's pretty broad. I mean, inadequately could mean that he doesn't mention them, he doesn't cover them, he doesn't go into them, or inadequately covers. So maybe
Yeah.
it's also the number.
Right. Well, that's where the judgment comes into the marking. Yeah. Maria Antonia, you had a question.
Andrew, I just realized, no, I was about to ask you, how do we know like the criteria for each task? But I had it zoomed out or zoomed in, I'm sorry. So now on the right-hand side, it says like the criteria for the task 1. And so I was about to ask you that, like, how do we know which is the proper criteria for each task? But I just saw it on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
That's why I know.
Yeah. There's a table for task 1, and the table for task 1 applies to both academic and general training. And
Got
then
it.
table for task 2 applies also for general training and academic.
Okay, thank you. I just saw it. That's why I just lowered my hand. Thanks.
All right. So the final thing is tone. They should always maintain a tone that is appropriate, formal or informal, depending on who you're writing to. Yeah. So students need to be sensitized to this really, and be considerate of who the audience is, right? Who's the recipient of the writing. So the skill of maintaining an appropriate tone is also assessed in the task achievement scale. So let's do another practical exercise, again using the band descriptors for task 1. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. What's the highest score for task achievement if you don't maintain an appropriate tone? Let's have a look, shall we? Is it 7? 7 is tone is consistent. There may be inconsistencies in the 6. But Tone may be variable and sometimes inappropriate. So the question was, if you don't maintain an appropriate tone, then it's a 5, right? Or even lower. It could go lower. So, how about if I just read you an example of a letter with an appropriate tone? And well, do you think the writer uses the right style? So I'll read out the letter. Dear Sir or Madam, hi, how are you today? Sorry to bother you with this letter. I read in your newspaper this week about the nasty plans to build ugly new apartments near my home. All my family are very angry about this because we don't want to lose the valuable amenity which this park is. My kids like to mess around there all weekend. There's heaps of stuff they can do in the park. Anyway, would you like to look out over ugly tall buildings which will lower the tone of the neighborhood? In conclusion, thank you for your time reading this letter. I like reading your newspaper very much too. Please don't hesitate to contact me for further information, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Kindest regards. So, what would you give that one in terms of grade? I'm just going to post. I also put it in the chat so you can. I can find it. Notes. Okay, here we go. So what would you give this in terms of the grade? And you could share that with your students, this one. There we go. What would you give this one? Task achievement. Yes. Grace says, I reckon the adjectives are quite rude, so I'll give it a 5. Yes, it's task achievement band 5. Tone may be variable and sometimes inappropriate. So there are contrasts between the formal and informal style and how the letter concludes with inappropriate formulaic closing statements. Kindest regards does not match the formal opening salutation, dear sir or madam. Okay, so yeah, 4 to 5 says Arnold. I agree. Yeah. What about contractions? Yes. It depends. I mean, if it's like a neutral email to a colleague, then maybe contractions would be appropriate. Yeah. It's contractions on their own, not necessarily indicator of formality or informality, but I mean, we'd be looking for other things as well, like in the familiarity of the Lexis sort of thing. No. Better avoided, yes, if it asks for a formal letter. But it might ask for an informal, so then you could use contractions. So they should analyze the tasks to look for more than one element in any bullet point. check for plural forms in the bullet points. For example, describe the problems. State the purpose of the letter in the first paragraph. Letters need paragraphs. Politely round off, looking to the future. So, important points here. Fully understand the task. The examiner wants to see students expressing a clear purpose for writing the letter. They should choosing the right tone for writing a letter is important to get it right. Avoid using same words as those given in the instructions because they won't get points for those. Start the letter as shown in the question. They should insert a name. So, for example, Dear Mr. Oliver. Or for a personal letter, Dear Andy. It's not usually appropriate to use the recipient's occupation. So don't use Dear Teacher if writing to their teacher. That might be acceptable in some countries, but not really for this. In any case, they shouldn't leave the opening as Dear. Don't waste time with the address and the letter in the appropriate way, such as yours faithfully, depending on the formality. Okay. Let's have a look at task 2. Time is moving on, so we need to progress. For both the academic and the general training versions, there are 2 tasks. Task 1 consists of summarizing information presented in a visual format for academic. Task 2 is an essay. Now, there may be different formats for the essay. Depending on the task, they may need to provide general factual information, outline and or present a solution, justify an opinion, or evaluate evidence and ideas. Here's when teaching writing, it's good to use the genre process approach. There's usually a genre analysis, a discovery stage in which we identify the layout, organization, formality, language, and text type. We'll do a little bit of an exercise right after this to show how this can be done. Task 2 is the process of writing 1, analyzing, brainstorming. It involves some planning, the introduction, body, paragraphs, and conclusion. And then the process of writing 2 is the first draft, editing, and final draft. Let's have a look at opinion essay. Task 2 essay counts for 2/3 of the writing mark. So they should make sure they spend 40 minutes doing it, but they shouldn't start writing as soon as they see the task. They have to analyze the task, to decide on the right approach to take, because different tasks require different approaches. Let's have someone. Maria Antonia, could you read out this rubric for us, please? Write about.
But the thing is, so which one are you projecting? Because in the projection it's only masterclass advice, and that's it.
Ah, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Because you know what? I don't know if it's only happening to me.
Oh
but
yes, sorry, you're right.
Ah.
There you go. Okay.
I was thinking it was only happening to me. So
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So, could you read out this rubric, please?
So it says opinion essay, right? Write
Yeah.
about the following topic. Some people believe the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity is a positive trend. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? It says 40 minutes and write at least 250 words. Give reasons for your answers, and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience.
Yeah, so remember, task 2 counts for 2/3 of the writing mark. They should spend 40 minutes. The rubric could also say, do you agree or disagree? How many parts do they have to address in order to reach band 7? Where it says addresses all parts of the task. How many parts do they have to address in order to reach band 7 with this task?
All of them?
Yeah, but how many parts are there of the task? There's 4 paragraphs, and we're not talking about paragraphs, but the parts of the task. How many parts of the task are there? Yeah. The most common answer is 2, but that's not correct. In fact, there is only 1 part here. Okay. This type of question only requires your position. Right? To what extent do you agree or disagree? Right?
Andrew, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry.
It will become clear. Let me just mention this, that this essay has to be well developed with plenty of supporting ideas. It does not require the opposing viewpoint to be discussed, though a balanced essay would also be acceptable as long as the writer's position is clearly and consistently expressed throughout. So it's only 1 part because it's only requires your position. Now, look at this one. Rosa Helena, can you read, please?
Sure.
This one.
Discussion essay. Write about the following topic. Some people believe the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity is a positive trend. Others believe it's harmful to individuals. Discuss both of these views and give your own opinion.
Okay, now let me ask Maria Antonia. Maria Antonia, how many parts are there to this task?
Now that you said it is only 1. I mean,
no.
I'm not sure. I'm kind of confused about the parts as well because as far as I know, when you have an essay, you have to start with the overview of the question what you want.
No, that's organization.
And the thesis.
We're looking at the rubric here. All right. So
we're looking at the rubric. Okay.
Low rubric. Arnold has the correct answer. 2 views and the opinion. Right. So how many parts is that? two views in the opinion. Jose, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, the first one that you showed has one because you gotta
Yeah.
take a side. The
Right.
second one, you
Yeah.
gotta have, well, you gotta analyze because it says you gotta give positive, negative, or do you agree or disagree? And let's see, you took it off, so I can't see it. Both sides. You gotta discuss
Yeah.
both sides, and then you gotta give your opinion.
Yeah. So it's three
So
parts to
it's
this.
3 parts.
Yeah. All right. Now, this essay, where you can see in front of you here, is more typical of a general training, right? With general training, the topics tend to be less academic in nature, more practical and everyday, right? And having 2 questions to answer is typical of the general training task 2. Right? All right, let's have a look at this one. Multi-part question essay. Can we have someone else read this? How about Cesar? Could you read this one for us?
Sure. Shopping is becoming more and more popular as a leisure activity. However, some people feel that this has both positive and negative effects. Why is shopping so popular? What effects does its increase in popularity have on individuals and society?
Great. All right, analyze this task. How many parts are to this task?
3 parts.
Yes. Why?
The first one, you have to discuss why is shopping so popular.
Yeah.
Then the other one, what effect that is increase in popularity have on individuals. The first
Yes.
one, and then on society.
Yeah, that's 3. Yeah. So to fully address the task, the response will need to first present an opinion on the popularity of shopping, and then discuss how this popularity has an effect on individuals and society. Now, what's the highest score you can get if you only write about why shopping is so popular, or if you only write about the effects shopping has on society? So have a look at the band descriptors. Task 2. That's is the next page, page 26. And it's task response. Let's have a look.
Let's say 4.
Let's have a look at what. Are you sure, or is it a good guess?
I'm reading number 4 says response to the task only in a minimal way, or the answer is tangential. The format is maybe inappropriate. Presents a position, but this is unclear.
All right, but I said, what's the highest score you can get if you only write about why shopping is so popular? Or if you only write about the effects shopping has on society?
So it will be 5 because it's
it
like
would be
only
5, yes.
partially.
It's only partially, right? Yeah. So it's more than minimal, but it's only partial, right? What I described. No. Again, this is a general training. Topics tend to be less academic, more practical and everyday. Now, only addressing part of the task will limit them to band 5, whether they do academic or general training. This is multi-part essay plus opinion. Can we have a volunteer to read this? How about John? Hello, John.
Certainly. There are problems with the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity. What form do these problems take? Do the problems outweigh the benefits of shopping as a leisure activity? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience.
So how many parts are there to this question? Two, says Arnold. Does everyone agree with that? Agree, yes. Thank you. Yeah, there are two. So it's describing any problems that are associated with the increasing popularity of shopping as a leisure activity. And an opinion about whether the problems outweigh the benefits. There is an implication that both problems and benefits should be discussed.
I think it's 3. What form do these
Yeah, it looks like
problems
3,
take?
doesn't it? Yeah,
And
that's kind of
actually,
weird. Yeah.
it's actually, if you look at it, it could even be more. Because the first question is plural. What form do these problems take? So we could
Right.
have a variable answers there. And then the second, do the problems outweigh? So here we are asking to compare. Compare and contrast problems versus benefits of shopping. So we could have 3 different stages here. Actually, more. Like I said,
Yeah.
depending on how open we want to be with the first part. What
I would
forms? Well,
say you have to set the problems first so to know which ones are you gonna develop.
right. But it's multiple. This is what I would say
You're
it's
right.
a multi. That's why it says multi-part essay,
Uh,
because this is a number. This is how deep, or how, as somebody just said, you know, what are the problems that I wanna, what are the problems that are formed? 3, 4, or
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, and what are do the problems outweigh? So maybe I might have, here I'm asking to compare and contrast. So here I have
Mm-hmm.
minimum 2, at least 2. I'm comparing and contrasting. That's 2. What
okay,
are the
well, we can
benefits?
agree that there's at least 2, right?
Yeah, and then the one on the top.
Yeah, I don't think there would be any problem if you wanted to stretch it to 3, but yeah. So to address all parts of the task, band 7, right? The candidates must cover both parts and focus on shopping as a leisure activity. Yeah. Which contrasts with the last one's also about leisure activities, shopping, wasn't it? But it was to do with the effects on shopping on society, individuals, and society. Now, just to summarize, you might find this table useful when you're guiding your students, right? We've seen the importance of task achievement. So how about I take a screenshot of this and pass it to you? Save it. Desktop. Here we are. There's a little takeaway for you. So those are some additional tips. Just make sure I'm screen sharing the right thing. I don't want you to miss anything. Now, what are the main characteristics of an essay? Now, you may have to teach some terminology, like thesis statement. So the opening paragraph introduces the topic, provides background information, and presents the thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement is a way of sort of limiting the scope of the essay, saying what you will cover and what you won't cover. Each paragraph explores a single idea that supports the thesis, and each paragraph usually has a topic sentence. The topic sentence often comes at the beginning of the paragraph and usually summarizes it or gives an idea of what's going to come. And a conclusion. Concluding paragraph summarizes the main points, restates the thesis in the light of the evidence discussed. It may also offer a final thought, call to action. And the importance of coherence, cohesion. Ideas should flow logically from one to the next with clear transitions between paragraphs. Cohesion ensures that all parts of the essay contribute to the overall argument or narrative. Aye. Some summarizing. Let's summarize the masterclass advice, highlighting the writing skills that examiners are looking for and some common mistakes. So they should allocate their time properly. Task 2, worth twice as much as task 1. They need to decide on position, express view clearly and provide support. Ideas should be organized into paragraphs, each with a clear focus. That's pretty obvious, right? Range of vocab and grammatical structures. Analyze the task. Write relevant content. Variety of linking words to connect and sequence ideas. Now, what's the importance of paragraphs in both task and task 1? Task 1 and task 2. What's the highest score students can achieve for coherence and cohesion if the essay is not organized into paragraphs? Have a look at one more look at the band descriptors. If there's no paragraphs in task 1 and task 2, what happens? It's 5, isn't it? Yeah, that's the maximum they can get. Yeah, if there's no paragraphs. Just shows the importance of that. Mhm. So it says band 5 may not write in paragraphs or paragraphing may be inadequate. Yeah. Similarly, they should not write in note form or use headings, bullet points, or numbered lists. It's continuous prose that's expected in both parts and in both general and academic. They should check their work carefully, know their usual mistakes, and look out for them. Any questions? Now, we will do writing again before we finish the live sessions, eh? The final session will probably do a bit of writing. Yeah. Because writing's tough, isn't it? Don't you think? One of the toughest things to teach in any foreign language. Yep, it is. Yeah, because it's really alien to a lot of students, some of the skills they develop in writing. They're just not, it's probably not, they've never learned it at school, you know, unless they've gone to sort of a academically rigorous type of school. And the chances are they haven't, some of them. Right. Let's do a little I want to show you how to do a general training task 1. Do a lesson based around that, yeah? So key points here when we're teaching, like, remember that text types are written to communicate a particular message, to communicate to someone. So what we write and how we write depends on who will read the message. And there are 2 general pedagogical approaches. We can go for product or process writing. So we're going to focus on the genre product one, which was mentioned earlier. Okay. So here's a text. All right, and it's a letter. I'm not going to tell you whether it's formal or informal. You can tell me whether it's formal or informal. The question is, what does the writer want the reader to do and why? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'd like you to write your answer in the chat, please. What does the writer want the reader to do? Just skim through it very quickly. You've got less than 1 minute. Yeah, get another room. Change rooms due to the noise level. Yeah. So this is a typical general training type of essay. Sorry, general training, task 1, letter. Okay. So with your students, give them a model text and check it for comprehension. First step. Now, we can get students to label parts of the letter to make them aware of the layout and content. All right. And so I'm going to give you a task to do on a interactive whiteboard. So if you're teaching this online, you could try this yourself. Please click on the link I'm sending into chat. All right. And you should get this coming up now. Great. So I'd like you to find a slide. Let's have Group A can be, if you're from Colombia, you can be Group A. How about that? If you're from Mexico, you can be Group B. If you're from Peru, Group C. You might have to sign in with Google to access it. FigJam is not as accessible as the old Google Jamboard, fortunately. But you should be able to move them using the arrow select tool. Do the simple ones first, like the date.
Seriously, dragging all, but I don't know. Well, I think I'm doing right.
Uh-huh. Okay, well,
It was dragging, right?
yeah, dragging. All right, well, time is upon us, bearing down upon us, so I'll show you the answers. And you notice that some parts of the of the letter are more important than others to carry the message. You know, it's worth pointing out to students, you know, that putting in the address and the date, not really that important, yeah. But they do need to have the right form of address to the reader, right? So sir or madam, yeah. I put double stars where they particularly need to get it right, right? The request for action, the reason for writing, description of the situation. Otherwise, the message is not going to get across, yeah. And the reader is not going to respond well. Okay. Now, what else can we work on? Have the students work on register or appropriacy. So I'm going to give you a Google form, and through the chat, I'd like you to click on the form. Just please indicate that you received the Google form. And there's a nice little activity you can do to work on appropriacy, or tone, as they call it in the masterclass. Right? So answer the questions and submit. Literally got 3 minutes. When you're designing these tasks, it's always good to contrast different styles. When you're done, press submit. No, 11 responses, great. Okay, let's check. So it's formal. Yeah, dear sir or madam, which is these 3 reasons for writing is, yeah. The others, the blue one, I want to help you, a bit too direct. Yeah, red one is a bit sort of neutral in between. Yeah, might be more suitable for an email than a formal letter. Which of these 3 requests for action is more informal in style than the others? Yes, everyone agreed with will. Yeah, will you give me? Perhaps a bit too direct. One tip. you could give to students is the more grammatical the language is, usually the more formal it is. Simpler grammatical structure, more of an indication of informality, isn't it? Now, these are kind of indirect questions. Requests. And yeah, regards. Yes. More often seen in neutral or informal emails. Right, regards or best regards. Slightly more formal. Now, what about the writing? Right, remember, when you're giving writing practice, support with a clear rubric and template. So the rubric is, you rent a room at college. Fortunately, here you have some problems and you find it difficult to work. Write a letter to describe the situation and explain your problems, why it's difficult to work. Then say what kind of accommodation you would prefer. It's a bit short, isn't it? 80 to 100 words. Yeah, it's too short. So yeah, let's be a bit more realistic. I'll let you write 150. Yeah, minimum. So I'll give you a template. You can have a quick attempt at writing that. Please confirm you received it.
Yes.
Yeah. So write your name at the top. Choose a an hoja, right? There are plenty for everyone, I think. Write your name at the top. Start writing to indicate it's yours. Give you a few minutes to have a go at that. Notice this tool, Google Docs. It's a simplified version of Microsoft Word. Pretty useful for writing online. Because as teachers, we can monitor what the students are writing. Now, don't think we're going to have the time for the Kahoot quiz today. But don't worry, we can save it for the beginning of the next session, which is going to be May 27th, when we'll do speaking. Yes, I'm sorry about that. Just a reminder of what you need to do between now and the 27th. If you're worried about getting behind, don't worry too much. You can always, I think they give you a bit of time at the end of the course to finish off. So make sure you're up to date. You've done writing and speaking. Speaking will be next time.
Andrew, I have a question. I was going through the modules and it appears that I have 100% of them done, but for some reason the ledger says 90. And I was going through them again and I was trying to find like where or what did I miss. And so I'm not sure, I haven't been able to find what's up here.
Oh, could you it'd be great if you could drop a line to Tim Matsuda. He might be able to, he's the kind of the tech geek, so he'll be interested to hear about that.
Yeah.
Do you have his email?
No, I don't.
I'll send it to you directly, Tim.
Please, thank you.
IH.com. Just looking ahead, once the students have finished their writing, set them a time. Yeah, 20 minutes would be appropriate, wouldn't it, for IELTS? And then they can put them in pairs and have them read each other's writings. You'll notice that included in this Google Doc is a checklist, so they can put them in pairs and they read each other's letters and check the content. Particularly those three in the middle: description of the situation, further details, request for action. So just a quick summary of the genre or product framework for a writing lesson. So there's usually a lead in. In this case, it might be the topic of college accommodation. Imagine you're going to do a degree in a foreign country. What do you think the accommodation would be like? Maybe show pictures of students like going wild at the weekend. So then there's a comprehension check of your model. There's analysis of layout and the content. You could then have awareness of the register, the style and appropriacy. You could also focus a little bit on some of the, the language contained within the text. Like, for example, the fact that it's full forms, not contractions. Perhaps some of the verb tenses. Right, present perfect. It's mostly present perfect, isn't it? I have asked. Some of the modal verbs, I would be grateful for making requests. Then they write according to the rubric, give them a template, which is somewhat optional. There's peer evaluation. That's important because you want to get students to take on responsibility for proofreading their own work, and how better to do that than work with a partner and compare with what their partner has written. Yeah, helps them to get less self-conscious as well. Then they can rewrite based on the suggestions. And if you're in a face-to-face classroom, you can get the students to paste the writing on the walls. I'm sure you've done that already, right? Before we finish, any final tips, any suggestions for IELTS writing that you could give to your peers? Well, I think we're just about ready to finish. So thank you very much. Oh, Arnold says paraphrasing is important. Yes, particularly in the intro. I agree. Yes, yeah. Saying things in different words, right? Not lifting from the rubric. Synonyms can help with paraphrasing, can't it, Grace? Yes. Yeah. Building things like noun phrases can be useful, especially in the academic writing. Hmm? Right. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you on the 27th.
Okay, sir. Thank
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good
I'll
night.
put,
Very
I'll,
much,
Great
Andrew.
night.
I'll
Bye
put,
bye.
I'll
Have a
put
good
the
night.
recording on the platform so you can review it as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Good
you very
night.
much.
Meeting.